Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cable Plus Property Show, the number one platform where we provide you with information on issues related to the land and landed properties. My name is Oiza, and as you already know, this is where we ensure that you get verified information, first-hand information on issues like building construction, documentation, registration, and obtaining your planning permit. Flooding is a natural disaster, and whenever it rains in Lagos, one of the things that people get scared of is the aftermath of flooding, how it destroys lives and properties. And that is why I have joined with me in the studio in this video the Permanent Secretary, Office of Drainage Services, Ministry of the Environment and Water Resources, no other than Engineer Nuruddin Olalekan Shudende. Come with me. Engineer Nuruddin Olalekan Shudende was born into the family of Rahman Olaiwola Shudende of blessed memory and Hairat Adufe Shudende in Lagos on 2nd of October 1966. He attended Ekimogun Nursery and Primary School, Surulere, where he obtained his primary school leaving certificate in 1977 and proceeded to Ansaruddin Grammar School, Surulere, for his secondary education, where he passed his WASC in 1982. He studied civil engineering at University of Ilorin, where he bagged a B.Eng Hunt in civil engineering in 1987, before he proceeded to University of Lagos, Akoka, Lagos State, where he added a Master of Science degree in Construction Technology in the year 1990 to his educational achievement. He also has an MBA Finance from Lagos State University, which he obtained in the year 2004. He started his career as an engineer at the local government level in 1990 and served in several local government areas across the state, amongst which are Alimosho local government, Lagos Island, Apapa, Surulere, Etiosa, and Ibeju local government area, amongst others. His service was transferred to the mainstream civil service in 2006 as an assistant director, and he had worked in various capacities in the ministries of housing, education, environment, works and infrastructure, and physical planning and urban development. All this meritorious service has spanned 29 years till date. He was the coordinator of the Lagos State Wastewater Management Office between August 2012 to June 2015. He was thereafter deployed to the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure between 2016 and 2017. He assumed the position of the General Manager, Lagos State Building Control Agency in May 2017 to July 2019. He was appointed in July 2019 by Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu as the General Manager, Office of Drainage Service, to midwife the process of recreating the office to engender effective flood control mitigation measures and bring the state back to the golden era when flooding was effectively managed and tamed, and was later elevated to the exclusive class of permanent secretaries in the Lagos State Public Services as he was sworn in on August 19, 2019 as the Permanent Secretary, Office of Drainage Service and Water Resources. Engineer Nuruddin Olalekan Shudende is a Muslim and happily married with children. You are the Permanent Secretary of the Office of Drainage Services and Water Resources. Would like you to educate the public or our viewers, so to speak, on what your functions are, the functions of your office, and how relevant they are to the people.
Thank you very much, Oiza. Thanks for that intro, and thanks for inviting me to this program. Well, like the name implies, Office of Drainage Services and Water Resources in the Ministry of the Environment and Water Resources. First thing I want us to realize is that everything we do has an impact on the environment. Nothing goes for nothing. Whatever we do, as we're talking now, before we get here, we got here, what we've done from morning till now has an impact on the environment. But my office has a key sector of the environment that we handle, which is water, anything that water turns into. Be it water has the solid state, the liquid and the gaseous state. But funnily, we don't have the solid one in Nigeria, but we have the two other types. We have the liquid surface water groundwater, we have the gaseous, the clouds is a form of water. So the movement of water is, let me say, the basic mandate that my office handles. How we can interact with water and get the best out of water. Water should not be our enemy. Water has no enemy. But it depends on how you relate with water, that's how water will relate with you. If you carefully deal with water, water will carefully deal with you. If you don't care about water, water will not care about you. So our job is to encourage that our livelihood on a daily basis deals kindly with water. And when you hear the word drainage, drainage is required because when water changes form from gas to liquid, it comes in form of rain. Over time, we have all distorted the natural phenomenon of God, the natural water cycle. So there's a need for us to now start creating artificial structures to mitigate the negative impact on the environment of what you and I are doing. So basically, our office is to advise the people on how best to deal with any kind of water. Then even potable water that we drink, how you get it, how you use it, how you handle it, how you treat it, it has to be cautiously planned and implemented. That's what my office is saddled with.
So, to be more specific, what are the particular services you render to people, or when they come to your office, what are those services they expect to get from your office?
Okay, let me start with the issue of water resources. Water is a resource. It's not just something you deal with roughshod like that. Yeah, even in some climes, they believe water might be the reason for the next world war. We pray it never happens. But water is becoming a lot more scarce. And effective provision of potable water falls under that purview. But there's an agency of the state that is actually related to the provision, that is Lagos Water Corporation. Another agency of government that handles the regulation, that handles the wastewater. Because when you take potable water, it will not disappear, it will only change form from being clean to used water. It becomes wastewater. So another agency is saddled with how you handle the wastewater, right? Now, there's another agency of government that handles the regulation of those two offices. The quality of the water we drink, the quality of the effluent that we discharge back into the environment for it not to have any negative impact on the quality of the surface water and the groundwater. What is even the volume of water available for consumption or for other uses in the state? That's a big part of the water resources. But the key one that people are always very interested in is the drainage part of it. And this has to do with provision of infrastructure that can convey storm runoff when there's any rainfall event to prevent any negative impact to the daily livelihood of people, prevent loss of life and property along the way, to prevent flooding. That's what we all understand, right? We equally advise on planning for development. Because really, flooding ought to have been prevented from the planning stage, which I hope we'll get to talk about later. If you plan to live with water, water won't disturb you by flooding you unexpectedly. You are supposed to, the best practice now is to live with your storm runoff, to try to replicate the natural water cycle. So that is what we're here to advise. We're not saying don't develop your land, but let us tell you how best to live with the water that would naturally come from the rainfall side. Rain is natural, is a natural event. We can't stop it. So our office is generally just set up to manage rainfall events from disturbing our lives.
Okay, so according to your profile site, you are a graduate of civil engineering.
Yes, I am.
So I'd like us to have a discussion on that aspect a little. I would like you to educate our viewers on the aspect of engineering that deals with water provision, water management, and control?
Okay, thank you. Well, civil engineering is a broad class of engineering. Under civil engineering, you have the structures, you have the civil, you have hydraulics, you have highways, you have transportation, you have water resources, you have geotechnics, you have environmental engineering, all that civil engineering. In some universities, they call it civil and environmental engineering. But my own, what the field that actually deals with what I do is basically hydraulics and water resources. Under that, you have what we call hydrology as well, but that's just a micro, a micro part of. But the broad spectrum is hydraulics and water resources. Hydraulics deals with transportation of liquid, but in this sense, water. So through open systems or closed system under a pressured system. But when you study civil engineering and you want to deal with storm runoff, you're talking about hydraulics. We're talking about flooding, we're talking about flood risk mitigation, you're talking water resources. So where you have to be creating dams, ponds, and all what have you. So those two key classes of engineering under civil engineering is what you need to work to do the work I do.
Okay, so you mentioned, if I'm correct, twice or thrice one phrase, storm runoff. What is that about?
Okay, storm water runoff. Rainfall is that body of water, that volume of water falling from the sky onto the ground. That is rain. When it touches the ground and is flowing, runoff.
Okay.
So storm, rainstorm, rainwater, storm, runoff. So anything water that flows on the ground after a rainfall event, are referred to as storm runoff in this context.
Okay.
So I won't say flooding, because not all storm runoff leads to flooding.
Oh, okay.
Flooding is actually when you have water stagnated, not going anywhere. Or storm runoff that is now so huge that is now disturbing movement or livelihood. That is some form of flooding. But when it is flowing without disturbing anybody, we just say storm runoff. When that starts disturbing, it becomes flooding. So if I said flooding, I'll be misleading the audience. So to me, it is storm runoff. They're all storm runoff. So that's why I use the word storm runoff. Because it's running off.
Okay.
We don't want it to stay.
Not stagnant.
You want it to run off as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned flooding, because my next question was going to be about that.
Okay.
And you'd agree with me that people, viewers and listeners, relate more with the word flooding in whatever context,
Exactly,
they
yeah.
understand flooding. So let's talk about flooding, especially in Lagos State. In its entirety, what is flooding, what causes it, and then if we can bring the causes to the domestic causes of flooding in Lagos, and how well can it be prevented? Seeing that the consequences sometimes goes beyond even the immediate environment where it happened.
Well, that's a huge question, impregnated. But let me first start talking about flooding generally. I explained storm runoff. But before I explain flooding, let me paint a picture. I use the word too that you might miss. I said natural water cycle. But the real engineering word is natural hydrologic cycle. Hydro, water, logic, cycle. It's a cycle. Where water transforms from one state to the other, it's going in a cycle. Let me assume it starts with the surface water. When the sun is out, it evaporates water naturally into the sky. It becomes clouds, right? When the cloud is fully saturated of water, it now condenses. And you have rainfall. That's a cycle. It has gone up, evaporated, it's now coming down as rain. The rain will flow into the rivers, into the lakes, into the lagoons, into the canals to be stored. When the rain stops and the sun is out, another evaporation commences. It takes a long time for this process to happen. But natural water cycle is such that there's water on the surface, there's water on the ground. You know that. right? But you can only evaporate that's on the surface. But when the water is coming down, the natural cycle God has created, natural, when natural is God divinely given, right? Is that you might not realize, but the biggest drainage infrastructure is the sand, the ground, the earth. That's the biggest storm water infrastructure. It's a sponge. When there's rain, a large percentage, more like half or more than half, ought to sink into the ground naturally, undisturbed, so that it will recharge the underground aquifer, the water in the ground. Another 40% thereabout naturally should stay on the foliage, on the green, the trees, the leaves of the trees, the grasses, all what have you, for it to be stored. Right? Now, only about 10% ought to go as runoff into the swamps, the lakes, and the rivers, and anywhere. And naturally, God has created pathways for this water in terms of low-lying areas. The water will flow from up down. So when the runoff is coming, it goes from the up elevation to a lower part for it to now go into the river. I mean, water finds its level. That's natural cycle. Where it comes down, half into the ground, another 40% on the leaves, on the green, while 10 flows. But now, causes of flooding. We have 3 types of flooding in Lagos. We have what we call the urban flooding, which is we call flash flooding. That Lagos is an urban center. So we have flash flooding, which oftentimes is man-made. It's not natural. Right? We have river flooding. Very easy to understand. River flooding along a river bank. So when there is rainfall and the river stage, when we say river stage, the height of the water in the river, that's a stage, goes high. God has naturally provided wetlands abutting the river to temporarily store this increase in the volume of the river. But if by chance you find yourself in such low-lying area, you will feel the impact of that river flooding. That is a natural situation. But it becomes a flooding event when people are now living in low-lying areas without adequate provision to live in such an area, to live with the water or live to naturally cohabit with natural habitat of that area. That's the second type. The third type is coastal flooding. I mean, coast, along the coast where you have water coming from the ocean due to high sea waves or whatever, to come. So that are the 3 types of flooding that we can suffer in Lagos. But the 2 that we feel the most is the first, flash flooding, which is caused by us, and the river flooding equally caused by us. Because river flooding naturally should go on and off without us even knowing the river stage is increasing or decreasing. Because when there's rain, the river collects everything. When the rain stops, the river will go down again. And let's talk about the flash flood. What I said is man-made. Take a mind back to the natural cycle, what cycle I mentioned earlier, that the biggest infrastructure is the earth. What have we done to ourselves in Lagos? Look at your compound where you live. What is the compound like? Concrete. Huh? Yes. So you have sealed and distorted a natural process that God has created to give us succor, for us to have a good life. You and I, we've sealed. Everybody. Oh, well, I'm not guilty, but I know a lot of people are guilty. What are we all doing? We are increasing, and no, apart from the ground that we've sealed, where are the trees and the grasses that should store another 40%? Do you see trees in Lagos anymore as they used to be? Well, maybe just in Lagos. I grew up in Lagos. I was born in Lagos, and I can tell you, Lagos has changed tremendously in terms of the environment. So we are having near 100% runoff, which the channels are not naturally designed for. When we say you are creating a canal, these canals are not artificial. They are naturally existing channels to take the runoff. There's no way you can increase the capacity of a channel element for 10% runoff to take 100% runoff within a short time. Because Water flows based on velocity, and you get velocity when there's energy. The energy for water is height. If you pour water on my hand, it will flow down faster like this. If I reduce the gradient, it's going to take longer. So if I pour the same volume of water, this one will go faster, this one will go slower. So the water will just be sluggish on this one. So it will keep piling up and the height will be rising. But this one, they won't meet each other. They just go pum, pum. So that's the problem. Look at the low-lying area. We have no energy to discharge. So we need the natural phenomenon more. You see, gone are those days where the mentality of hydraulic design for drainages is rapid collection, quick discharge, energy. That means you quickly collect into a channel and the thing will flow out. That's where you have energy. But when you're even low already, look at the lagoon. Look at the level of your land. How high are you to ensure and encourage that rapid discharge? We don't have such laxity or latitude to play with in Lagos. Now, all of us have sealed our compounds. We have directed all our rainfall volume onto the road within a short space of time during the rainfall. So when the rain is falling, the entire volume of water coming down is coming out into the public space at the same time. Naturally, only 10% should be coming out into the public space and sluggishly go into the canals and the rivers. But now you're bringing 100%. No engineering can solve that. So flooding can be prevented. It can only be managed. That's what they call stormwater management, not flooding prevention in engineering. Stormwater, you manage it. And management starts with the planning of how you even want to build or develop that area you want to go into. A lot has to do. You want to say something?
No, continue.
A lot has to do with physical planning in this state. A lot depends on our planning. Because when you fail to plan, then you have plans to fail. A lot of our failures, a lot of what we're having wrongly affecting us is because we have not planned very well. Development precedes governance. The converse should be the case. We ought to have planned the estate. We ought to have planned the new area we want to move into, provided a plan for all infrastructure before we start moving in. I'll give an example. If you want to plant in the low-lying area, I don't have anything that comes against that. But how high are you sand filling above the flood line? What area are you providing for the storage of that water that you are going to meet in that low-lying area? Because that low-lying area or wetland was naturally created to store or to be a buffer for runoff. So if you are going to live in that low-lying area, what are you providing for that natural habitat that is what that you're trying to displace? You can't displace water. Do you understand? You can't displace water, but you have to provide for it. So if we have planned very well, we can actually manage flooding situations in Lagos.
Let's go on a quick commercial break and we'll be right back on the conversation.
Cable Plus Property, the hub of professionals in the built environment and the #1 online educative platform on all issues related to land and landed property. At Cable Plus Property, our aim is to ensure that all Nigerians and non-Nigerians have at the tip of your fingers, free of charge, all information on landed matters. We provide you with all information you need to know about land procurement, land documentation and development, planning permit procurement, building construction, and so on. Join us today for free by subscribing to our YouTube channel, like and follow us on our social media platforms, and check us on our website www.cableplusproperty.com. Together, we shall make our environment better. Spend and build right.
Hi Hi, welcome back. It's still the Cable Cross Property Show, and I have with me still in the studio Engineer Shide. We've been discussing about flooding, and I trust that you've learned so much because I have. Welcome back. Okay, so my next question is, having highlighted all of these problems, most of which we have caused ourselves, where do we go from here? And particularly, what is the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources, Office of Drainage Services doing to see that, like you said, we manage the situation?
Now, what we've been doing or what we're doing, there are low-hanging fruits. Our biggest concern is to ensure that the disturbance doesn't happen. And where it happens, it doesn't fester, doesn't stay too long. When we say urban flooding, flash, you will see it, it will go. Because I said earlier that you can't provide any infrastructure that can handle 100% of rainfall event or runoff. So what we do is to ensure that the conveyor system, which are the drainages, because the drains are just a conveyor system now. For the water not to flow on the road or on the ground, you have drains. But because the volume of water that is running off is more than the volume capacity of the drain, it comes on the road. But we ensure that this conveyor system is free of all obstacle, that it will keep working efficiently and effectively. So within a couple of time, 1, 2, 3 hours, whatever flooding that you are feeling will dissipate.
Obstacles like
Garbage that you throw in the drainages. That's another issue that we contend with. You see, apart from the fact that we have naturally distorted the natural water system, right? We now even encumber the anthropogenic solutions, the engineering solutions, the channels that have been provided. I'm not saying we now throw garbage into the drain. Some do, but even those of us that just put the drain outside our gate, unattended, not in a container to protect it. When rainfall happens, what happens to that garbage you have put in front of your gate? Water will carry it. And where is it going to take it to? The drain. You have not put it there yourself, but what you have done is you've encouraged the transportation of such refuse into the drain. So this now clogs the drain, reduces the effective volume or capacity of the drain to do what it was designed to do. That shouldn't shock you. Some people even channel their wastewater, the toilet waste from their houses into the drain. That's why there's no rain for how many days now. But the drain in front of your house has ever gone dry? No. So where is water coming from? There's no rain. So where is water coming from? Those gutters were meant to serve for rainwater only. Wastewater should go into the septic tank in your houses. But people are now so ingenious, devilish, disingenuous. They now channel their wastewater into the drain. So you now have contending things fighting for the same capacity in the drain. But what we're doing is, yes, we know these are happening. We're trying to enforce as best as we can, but we owe it to the community that we need to keep these drains fully functional. Even if you can't contain it 100% volume, let's make the conveyor open, through, free. At least when there is storage, when there is backup, within a short time, it will flow out. It's different from when the channel is blocked and there's a backup and it cannot flow out. That becomes a real sitting flooding. So we try to ensure that those natural canals are clean. Secondary collectors are clean. Likewise, tertiary drains are clean. Regularly we do that. Then where there are a need for upgrade, concreting or constructing the drain, because like I said, most drains are naturally existing. So for us to improve the capacity and the efficiency of such drainage infrastructure, we line them with concrete. Because when you concrete, water can flow faster. When it is in its earth form, it is slower in velocity. And with concrete, water can carry obstacles a lot more effectively. So these are things the government is doing. And we're equally creating awareness on how best not to do certain things and how best to do certain things. So that's what we're doing right now.
Okay, so if you are to do a comparison between, say, a few years before now and the present time, would you say the cases of flooding in Lagos has reduced or increased?
Well, let me say we've better managed because reduction or increment depends on the volume of rainfall you get. We don't control that. It's natural. Some years we'll have tremendous volume coming down. Some years we just have not that huge volume coming down. But what we've done is we've been able to improve our response to flooding events. In the last 3.5 years, the kind of infrastructure and investment that government has provided for stormwater management is 3, 4, 5 times more than what has been invested in the previous 16 years or 20 years of democracy in Lagos. This government has spent enormous resources on stormwater management. So we can beat our chest and say, go to sleep, don't be scared. If there is rain, it will flow out. But we always give an alert for those that are living in low-lying areas. Don't sleep when it's raining. Because you're already in a low-lying area that we cannot, when you're down, we can't take the water out because you're already in the floodplain. But when you're in other parts, we'll tell you, don't worry, we have adequate infrastructure, well maintained, that will handle the flash flood. But for the river flooding, the solution is a long-term one that requires doing some mega engineering infrastructure to hold and contain the river from going to its natural buffers. So that's what we've not done. Those are long-term investments. So people living in low-lying areas that you can see your canal, you can see your river, you can walk through it, and if you're not high up, please be wary. It's not yet to huru for such areas yet, because no drainage infrastructure can solve that problem. But let me shock you a little bit. Lagos is the most downstream. When I say downstream, the lowest part, the southernmost path of 8 major river systems come from as far as Kwara State, Republic of Benin. 8 rivers end up in the Lagos Lagoon. So they have the opportunity of discharging quite fast, right? But we don't have because Lagoon is inside Lagos. So we and the Lagoon, we are contiguous. Lagos and the Lagoon, we are contiguous. So Oyo, Ogun, Kwara can discharge everything into Lagos. Where are we discharging into? We're not going anywhere. So we are in the low-lying area. So that's why we need to manage other states as well when it comes to river flooding. But that one is an ongoing discussion with the federal government and the federal agency that is handling the river basin, that is involved.
What message do you have for Lagosians regarding flooding generally? And particularly, would also like you to give the King Plus Property Group a message.
Thank you very much. Let me say to Lagosians in general, a lot of the pain we feel is self-inflicted. We need to love ourselves to enjoy the environment. The environment will not take any impact away. The environment feels no impact. The impact is on us. Whatever we do comes back to haunt us. So we need to live according to the ethos of governance. If government says do this, let's do it the way government has said it. Very simple basic things that we do creates problem. You took water in your car. The next thing is you're throwing out the PET bottle onto the road. That PET bottle will end up in somebody's drink somewhere. A lot of negative attitude. You need to have a change mindset to the environment. Let's just stick to what government is telling us to do. Everything we're saying in government is for us to have everybody to have a good life. So that's my general talk to Lagosians. We need to live according to the rule, according to the rule of the state. If you must build your house, obtain all approvals. There is no way you can cut corner. If you don't, it will come back to haunt you. They might not catch you now, but something like posterity will catch up with you eventually. All the flooding we're suffering, we're the ones bearing the brunt at the end of the day. Government spends so much funds providing infrastructure that we end up destroying. We end up building in low line. So these are things we need. So talk to government for you to have a good livelihood. There's no shortcut to good livelihood. You must be a legal being. Now to the cable group, I must say I'm humbled and honored to have you come interview me. This is a very drilling session. I must acknowledge that. Coming from a, I'm sure you did a lot of research. No, I'm not complaining. It's nice. You see, we're here to educate ourselves. A lot is known and a lot is not known as well. That's why you have to unlearn, learn and relearn every day. I've learned a lot from this interview. I want to thank the group for coming to interview me, for giving me the opportunity to share my own personal opinion. All I've said today is about Shode. Okay, I've only told you the way I know it. I'm not saying that is the best, but as I'm talking to you, that is the best that I know. But you can take it away, come back and have a chat with it. Don't come and challenge me. What you said though that day, I found that this is not right. Okay, let's have a chat. That is how to grow. We're having a conversation. I've told you what I know. If you hear any other opinion, please feel free to give me a feedback that you said this. Can't we look at it this way as well? So we have a class how to grow. So I really thank you. And from the intro you gave, I'm sure you do it all the time. So please, I'll be glad if you can always give us a feedback on whatever affects our sector, because that will make us be better informed and be able to serve the people in a more effective and efficient manner. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, sir. So if you used to think that flooding is just a natural disaster, I'm sure that from all you've heard today, you've understood that aside the fact that flooding is a natural disaster, you as an individual also have a part to play in managing the situation. Like the engineer has rightly said, we have to work hand in hand with the government to make sure that our environment is better than it is now. My name is Oiza, and thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you click the subscribe button below, share this video with friends, family and colleagues, and also head on to our social media platforms on Facebook and Instagram. Follow us at Cable Plus Property. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.